We're back, baby. It's a charity shot. Pitch free throws because they all free. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Toss, Rock Tosopoulos, DJ, Nikki Snacks, Crider right here for you guys. Talking a little NFC football, NFC North, NFC South, and the NFC West. We'll get to the NFC West in the second segment, but NFC North first and foremost. King of the North, Aaron Rodgers, two-time back-to-back MVP last 2 seasons, multiple MVP awards over the course of his career. Hasn't been able to get past the 49ers in the playoffs, but has been dominating the NFC North. Is this the year the Vikings retake the lead and capture the NFC North? Do we buy the Hard Knocks hype? Have we been completely underselling the Bears? And does Justin Fields go on a miraculous run and in the craziest fashion against all odds win the division? Where are we at? Can Rodgers get over the hump? Or are we worried about Devontae not being gone? Do they have the best defense? So many questions, I feel.
Yeah, you just posed a lot of questions to us.
I just threw a lot, man. Just run through them.
So here's the easy question to answer. The Bears will not
there you go.
be a team to upset the Packers. I have died on that hill before, and I'm not going to do that again with the Chicago Bears. The Hard Knocks hype, love Dan Campbell. I think he's an amazing coach, amazing motivator, a lot of passion, but I don't think that team is competitive enough yet. They could definitely win some games, but they're not overtaking the Packers. I think it's a 2-horse race between the Vikings and the Packers. Rodgers is the reigning champ of that division, and he's the 2-time reigning MVP. You can say that he lost, a big weapon in Devontae Adams, but if you look over the course of his career, it doesn't really matter who his number one receiver is because they always eat. Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, Greg Jennings. He might look for a new guy now, Alan Lazard, or even Romeo Dobbs to step up in that role, another Hall of Famer.
Alan Lazard,
as he would say.
Said, yeah.
But I think it just really depends on how much peyote he smoked this offseason. Is that going to hit the reset button enough for him to get over the hump and potentially get to the Super Bowl and win another one? Or is it too much peyote where he's stuck in 2017? And gonna lose the division.
Nice. Well, I will say, from a peyote ayahuasca standpoint, he reminds me of the guy that brags about smoking weed, whereas Jameis is the guy that just goes and does it.
Right.
If you guys have seen Jameis's latest interview, so do you think Rodgers wins the division, or are you team Vikings right now?
I still think Rodgers wins the division.
Okay, Toss. What about you, man?
I'm with Nick in the sense that it can't be the Bears. It can't be the Lions. The updates that the Lions have made on their roster and have all been on the offensive line, on the offensive side of the ball, but their defense, while they did draft Hutchinson with their first-round pick, still has a long way to go to compete with the high-powered offense of the Packers and the Vikings. So that's why I don't think they can be considered in that top tier of the division. The Packers, I just, until I see consistency on the Vikings side of the ball and them winning those close games that they had last year that Zimmer couldn't help them do. And obviously they bring in a new coaching staff to do that because they have a bevy of weapons. They actually have a decent defense, I guess. I would say their defense is still in the back 15 of the NFL, and that's where I draw the line because the Packers could easily have the best defense in the NFL this year, or at least a top 5 defense. So I think they'll still win the division, no matter who his weapons are, receiver wise.
They made a lot of draft picks, obviously, in the defensive side of the football. The Vikings have. The Vikings have missed seemingly in the Zimmer era in draft picks outside of Justin Jefferson, and they obviously pull a Norwegian buyback and get Jalen Reagor into the mix. The weapons, though, in Minnesota, and I think Kirk Cousins consistently gets a lot of flack for being a good quarterback. Like, he's a legit quarterback. You're talking about back end the 16. He's the front end, in my opinion, and I don't think it's much of a question. Michael Irvin picked him as the MVP. I don't know if I'd go that far, but I think the new head coach and Kevin O'Connell could really unlock him to take that next step. Can he get the most out of Jalen Reagor?
Kevin O'Connell. Isn't that Brendan Fraser's character in The Mummy?
Is that Brendan Fraser's character in The Mummy?
Or is that O'Connor? O'Connell? I'll have to look that up.
We'll look that one up. If it is,
Yeah.
Nick, very, very impressive.
The Mummy. Well, Brendan Fraser is making a huge comeback.
Sorry, it's Rick O'Connell. Damn, I think maybe Kevin O'Connell's their son. Maybe
Rick O'Connell is in the Mummy. Who's the wife in the Mummy?
Rachel Weisz.
Got to be the most underratedly beautiful actress in the history of all time.
She's
She's
great.
taken. Daniel
You
Craig.
know, by exactly.
Bond.
That's how you know.
Bond.
You know that she's like the most beautiful actress when she's dating James Bond, where she's married to James Bond.
I wouldn't say she's the most beautiful actress, but
Underratedly so,
she is
dude.
A beautiful actress.
She's got the whole package. That's all I'm saying. Accent, skill set, looks, obtainably beautiful. She's the GOAT. Okay, speaking of the GOAT though, this is a question that's been posed around, Nick, Toss. Has Aaron Rodgers, considering his skill set, considering his regular season dominance, underachieved in his career from a winning standpoint?
I think if the ultimate goal is to win a Super Bowl, and he's done that. There's thousands of players in the NFL who have never won a Super Bowl. There's thousands of players in the NFL who's never been to a Super Bowl. So I think when you kind of quantify that, he has reached where he needs to be. Now, in terms of legacy and in terms of where you stand with the all-time greats, that's where amount of Super Bowls really comes into play, right? You'll never catch Tom Brady. Peyton Manning's got 2, right? And he's still considered one of the greats, but I think he's gotten what he needs to be the Aaron Rodgers legacy that we all want to see in the Hall of Fame. I mean, it'd be nice for him to add another one, but I don't think he needs to do anymore.
Okay.
I think
Toss
he's
from your perspective.
I think he's underachieved solely because Tom Brady exists, and Tom Brady has ruined legacy for every other high performance quarterback that will come in the future that has been in the last 20 years, because I would say that Peyton Manning is also underachieved. It's why he can't be considered the best quarterback ever. It's why Rodgers can't be considered the best quarterback ever, is because Brady has as many rings as he has more rings than any other NFL franchise. Like,
yeah, but like the thing with Tom is like, yes, he's ruined legacy for so many guys, right? Like, you'll never be able to catch him. Like, the amount of rings is just absurd at this point. Like, the photos, like the 7 rings, all of it. But he's got 1 in the NFC. So realistically, yeah, from a legacy standpoint, you'll never catch him, but he's never been a hurdle for Rodgers up until recently. And quite frankly, Rodgers hasn't had to go through him. Like, Rodgers has had just a tough time getting past the Niners. Like, he had it last year, or he could have had it last year. I mean, I think that Rams team is their team of destiny.
So you're saying like the last 10 years, the NFC being better than the AFC collectively, if we looked year to year, is that impactful in Rodgers not getting more Super Bowl rings?
I think that, like,
because that feels like an excuse to me. No,
I feel like he's fell victim to lightning in a bottle, but I'm not saying I disagree with you. I think he has. I just don't. I just think the point of Tom Brady, like, he hasn't really had an effect on whether Rodgers has won or not. Like, I just think from that standpoint, like, there has to be some level of, like, if we hold everyone to the standard where the quarterback getting it done, like Rodgers has to get it done in some right in his own, in his own part. And, like, it's kind of ridiculous to me that for a guy we consider a top 3 quarterback of all time, or a guy that is considered by some the best pure quarterback of all time, has the same number of rings as Pat Mahomes. He played in God knows how many more seasons.
Yeah. I mean,
for all we know, Pat Mahomes could go the rest of his career without winning another one.
It's very true.
But he's already been to more Super Bowls.
The 2, bro.
He's already been to more Super Bowls than Aaron Rodgers. Aaron Rodgers has won since 2011. The Packers have won the division 8 times. So you're either getting a bye or you're getting a guarantee that you're at least going to be in the playoffs 8 times. For him to be a top 3 quarterback of all time and to only have one Super Bowl appearance out of those 8 division wins. And I'm not even looking at before because there was some other division wins before that prior to 2011. It's not enough for me. And that's it's a disappointment.
I mean, they flat out blew it last year. Last year was their best shot they've had in a long time. They were by far the most dominant team, and they got skunked for the most part by San Francisco in the cold weather, where like San Francisco is from the Bay Area in California, and you're playing at home at Lambeau. So to me, last year was a big failure for sure. But when it comes to Super Bowls, it doesn't matter unless you win the game, I think. Right? I mean, Rex Grossman went to a Super Bowl.
Yeah, but he's like a joke of a QB, and we all know that. I would at least have, if Rodgers at least had gone to one last year, I would have been like, okay, and like lost. I've been like, okay, like, yeah, I would have been dope to see him get over the hump, and yeah, he would have gotten flack for not getting the job done, but I would have at least appreciated more than like you're saying, where he absolutely Q janksed against the 49ers at home. Like you're right, that was pathetic. Like, you have the Niners at home in the cold weather. Like, this is your chance to dominate. Yeah, the Bay Area gets. My buddy was like telling me the Bay Area gets cold. I'm sure it does. It's NorCal, but still.
But it doesn't get to negative
Wisconsin. Yeah,
5 degrees.
But even more so, like, look at their team this year. I think their defense was good last year. I think it's going to be better this year. It should be better. They've added more personnel to their already existing defense that performed at a high level. They have, Josh, you said the best running back duo in the NFL. You named Dillon and Jones the best running back duo. Whether you believe that or not, they're in the top. That's for sure.
I mean, I don't mind that. Two of them are Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb.
So if you have the best running back duo and you have a top 3 defense in the NFL, if your quarterback was Kirk Cousins, we would believe that you were a Super Bowl contender. If your quarterback was Trey Lance, we would believe that your team is a Super Bowl contender. Like, why, to me, if Rodgers can't put it together after winning back-to-back MVPs, after playing the best football of his career, and now he finally has a very competent head coach. I know McCarthy won a Super Bowl, but I think we can all come to the agreement that Mike McCarthy is not a fantastic NFL head coach.
Overrated.
For sure. So this is really like, you got to get it done now.
I think those are all valid points.
They're a Super Bowl. They're my Super Bowl pick to get there.
And you have your Benjis, your LSU Benjis winning the whole shebang.
For sure. I just think this is I'm glad we spent this much time talking about it, because I think it's an incredibly critical year for Aaron Rodgers and the Packers. And I really just, like, no matter what the new regime looks like in Minnesota, LaFleur is a good coach. He's a very good coach.
He's got to get over the hump too, though. Now, like, they both do. Like, as a duo, they could have the best cornerback duo. Like, we could be sitting here after the regular season, and Stokes and Alexander could be the best cornerback duo in the National Football League. I think the Vikings defense is a little better. I like the Vikings defense a little more than you do, but it's still very much beatable. You still have two games against the Bears. You have 2 games against the Lions, and then you had 2 games against the Vikings. If you're the Green Bay Packers, you need to go 5-1 in those games at worst. If they drop a game to the Bears or Lions, I'm completely out on them. You need to take care of business. I am.
The Lions are a team that I think could upset them for a game. And I don't think they would be, I don't think it'd be like world changing, because I do think they put together a competitive roster. They're not going to win the division, but
they're competitive.
They're
going to beat some teams, but it shouldn't be the Packers. You know who they beat? The Vikings.
Yeah, but on any given Sunday, any team could beat any team.
1,000%.
Unless you're like last year and the year before, that's Jags. You're not beating anybody.
But and the Colts. Yeah, they beat the Colts on any given Sunday. Dude, I think this is the most critical year for Aaron Rodgers, and we'll get now into the NFC South, where I think honestly the top of the division can be just as competitive. I know it's crazy to say. I think they're very mirror divisions to me, the North and the South. I think each team has a team that sucks. No hard-hitting analysis there. The Falcons are absolute Doogie Howser, as are the Chicago Bears. I think they each have a team that can be sneaky competitive in the Panthers and the Lions. I think they each have a team that most people don't think will win the division, but very easily could.
Mhm.
Saints and Vikings. And they each have a team quarterbacked by what the MVP caliber players with just MVP caliber rosters,
Yeah.
with head coaches that have never gotten it done, but we think can, in Bowles and LaFleur. I do think, here's a hot take. I'll let you guys respond and give you all the floor. I think the Saints will have an easier time potentially winning the division than the Vikings will in the North.
I disagree. I was literally about to say the reverse. I think the Buccaneers are a more complete team than the Packers are. I think that they have a better opportunity to make the Super Bowl than the Packers do this season. But that's not a knock on the Saints. I think the Saints are a better team than the Vikings. I just think that the Bucs have a tighter grip on their division than the Packers do.
Okay. Interesting toss.
It's also so like up in the air with the Saints too. It's like, how is Jameis going to play coming back from injury? How is Michael Thomas going to play coming back from 2 years of not playing football? How's Olave going to perform? How's Jarvis Landry going to perform? You know, he's been on the decline as for a bit. Is Kamara going to get hit with a suspension mid-season from the altercation he had over the offseason?
I think Kamara's Sean.
Yeah, there's just so many different factors though with that Saints team that we just are uncertain of.
For sure.
So I'm smoking the J Chicken Cutlet crack. And this is like, I was flip-flopping between what I was going to say, because a moment ago I felt like I would have said the Vikings, but I think Toss's little like minute monologue on the Packers sold me more on them and their potential to really have a good year this year.
Yeah. I mean, I look at both of those teams at the top of their division in both divisions, and I look at how they match up against each other because they are playing each other twice in the season. And there are too many question marks, like Nick is saying. On the Saints side, like, what if Michael Thomas doesn't come back healthy? What if he gets injured again? Re-aggravates the injury? What if the suspension does get dealt to Kamara? Then we're looking at the Saints team, and they look a lot more like they did last year with no weapons basically whatsoever, except, you know, you've got Jarvis Landry, who we like if you were in a PPR league 5 years ago, and Chris Olave is a rookie, so like we still have to watch him and see what he can become. But their backup running back is Mark Ingram, who I think we can all agree he's well past the hill at this point in his career. Fine, you want to give him 5 carries just so that Kamara doesn't get all the work. That's totally cool. I think he could punch it in from the one a lot better than Josh can, but
Probably.
he's a backup running back. And the way that the Bucs play, they're going to have that air raid offense. Godwin is already looking pretty healthy coming into week 1. We thought we weren't going to get him until week 4. I'm sure he'll have to kind of play himself back into true football shape. But they have Mike Evans, they have Leonard Fournette, and they have Tom Brady. And they have an excellent pass rush. Like, I just think that the way that they play air raid, they can win by scoring 40 points, can win by scoring 25 points. I don't think the Saints, I don't trust them to do that. I don't trust them to beat a team 37-35. If their defense let up 35 points, they're in trouble. Like, and then we know what happens when Jameis gets a little bit of pressure on him. And I know he has different eyes now, and they're functioning, I hope, at a much higher capacity. But
they're functioning high last season because people already got hurt.
They were great last season. I think they're
but again, I've talked about this before. He was not a high volume passer last year, as he was when he played with Bruce Arians on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which is one of my favorite teams to watch play football of all time.
Yeah, all time. Gonna get
tapping into Brashad Perriman, but I just think, like, yeah, I agree. I think the Bucs have a much better hold on the division, like Nick's saying, but I also think that the Packers are right there. I think both of these teams, the Vikings and the Saints, are being proposed as darlings for a lot of people, as like dark horse Super Bowl contenders, and it's like a fun, kind of sexy pick. And I think neither of them can make the Super Bowl, in my opinion. Just, it's not going to happen. It won't happen.
Let me say this. If everything goes right, before we go to a quick little break, I think things that are being overlooked, I'm with you. The Bucs weapons are great. Unbelievable. They lost their center and they lost their guard from last year. That's being overlooked a little bit. They have a new head coach. I like Bowles, but he's a brand new head coach over here. He flopped last time he was head coach. I like their defense. I have faith in them over there. They lost Jason Pierre-Paul. We'll see how that fits. The Saints defense is good, bro. The Saints defense is really, really good. The Saints offensive line is going to be really good. Alvin Kamara is going to be excellent if he's healthy. Had some injury woes last year, and if he plays. Michael Thomas, no Michael Thomas. I think Olave, you take over. I think he's the truth. I'm not saying he's Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, but I think he's going to be a really good wide receiver in the NFL. And I just have a lot of faith in this team. If everything goes right, them propelling to a real competitive team in the NFC. We're going to be back in just a hot second. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Tosman, the Rocktasopoulos, DJ Nicky Snacks Crider. We'll tail maybe a little more NFC South, but probably get into the NFC West. Don't go anywhere. We're back, baby. It's a charity stripe. Pitch your free throws because they are free. Joshua Fisher, Alexander Toss Me, the Rocktasopoulos, DJ, Nicky, Snacks Crider. I teased it. I said maybe we do NFC South. I think we're a little sour cream and onions with the NFC South. Is that fair? Do we need to really talk about the Panthers? I mean, everyone's talked about Baker Mayfield ad nauseum. We have, so I think we're done. Cinnamon toast crunch there, and then obviously the Falcons.
Can I just get
please, go for it. You do whatever you want. Yeah.
The feelings from the two of y'all on Pitts and McCaffrey. I don't care about those teams, but I do care about those two players, especially for fantasy. Do we believe in McCaffrey rising to the top once again at the RB position? Do we believe that he's going to remain relatively healthy this season and kind of reestablish himself as one of the top weapons in football?
If he's healthy, but bro, he's played 10 games in the last 2 years.
Yeah, I've been hesitant to take him, but
so has you have you have him?
I do have him in a couple leagues just because that's where I was picking, and it's kind of hard to pass up. But from all reports, he's feeling stronger than ever. I mean, guys really do bounce back sometimes after getting surgery, after recovering for a while. I mean, if you think about his career, he's played from, I don't know, probably the age of 6 till when he got hurt in the NFL every single season, without injury. And that's a lot of wear and tear on your body. So having some time off could probably help, getting him his fresh legs where he can be fully 100% this year. And I think he's not going to be having the same load he had when he first came in the league, where he was playing 99% of the snaps. That's absurd. That's part of the reason why he got hurt, right? They were running him into the ground for a team that wasn't really competitive either. He's going to have some plays off. He's got some running backs that can give him downs off. Baker can throw the ball a little bit better, and they've got receivers too. So I'm hoping that he stays healthy, and if he is, he can return. I mean, especially as a pass catching back in a PPR league.
So if I had to force you to give an answer, is he back? Is he not back? Nick, I think you and I are on the same.
I think
he's back. He'll be back. And Josh, you seem a little bit more hesitant.
From the injury standpoint, yes. I think every point.
No. Just gut check. Just what is he going to be back? Is he not going to be back?
I'm going to give my boy credit because yes, he's going to be back because of everything Nick just said. Everything to the nail that Nick just said was completely accurate. Hubbard, Foreman, great guys to spell him. They have 3 really solid. I don't know about Robbie Anderson, but I actually like Terrace Marshall, and I know you do, Toss. We all like DJ Moore, I think, as a number 1. They added a left tackle in the draft. Honestly, the way they utilize McCaffrey as and they use him in the receiving slot, the way they've utilized him is more than just a running back. They have Laviska Shenault, the guy that we really like. That was a very underrated move that they made, and I felt getting Laviska Shenault is another way they can spell McCaffrey potentially. I'm dying on the Shenault, and we talked about the AFC North, and I didn't get to mention him, Okuda Hill. 2 of my favorite players coming out of recent drafts that have just completely flopped. I'm dying on the Hills this year, and that's that. I think that McCaffrey can bounce back, and I'll go into Pitts. Pitts was one that had 1,000 yards receiving last year. And obviously he downgrades at quarterback, but he only had 1 touchdown. There's no way that your monster tight end is going to have 1 touchdown. again. And honestly, I think from a red zone standpoint, one thing Mariota has that Ryan didn't is the ability to run and the RPO. And Arthur Smith, head coach of the Falcons,
Shout out to his family.
shout out to his, thank you, Nick. God, thank you. Shout out to his family. Was able to utilize the RPO extremely well in Tennessee. Obviously, it's Derrick Henry. It's a completely different circumstance from a running back standpoint. But I think a little bit more mystery in the red zone is going to help Kyle Pitts. And if he can jump to 6 or 7, even 8 touchdowns, he's going to be a monster in fantasy.
So is he going to be, my big question is,
Go.
is he going to be not fantasy related, but NFL, talking about the actual talent of these tight ends? And I know that he's a little different because he ran more outside routes than most receivers last year.
Sure.
Is he going to be his draft position in fantasy, the third tight end selected off the board? Is he going to be considered the third or better tight end going into the next year from the position standpoint on the actual field?
If everyone plays, he can't be, because he's not going to be a better receiver than Kelsey or Andrews yet. And he's nowhere yet, but I think it definitely can get there.
It's all quarterback related, in my opinion.
Sure. And
Kelsey's got Mahomes. Andrews has Lamar. I mean, no matter how much he runs, he's still a pretty good quarterback. Mariota is the starting quarterback for now. Like, we don't know how long that's going to be. He doesn't have a history of throwing a good deep ball or history of being all that too accurate. He was really accurate in college, but didn't really translate to the NFL. And then you've got Desmond Ridder right behind him, who we're not sure how he's going to perform either. So it's all dependent on the relationship between him and the quarterback. Because if you look at all the great tight end duos that have ever come in the NFL, it's consistency at the QB, and it's just a great connection. Antonio Gates, Philip Rivers, Tony Romo, Jason Witten, Mark Andrews, Lamar, Kelsey. I mean, all these guys have great quarterbacks that they have great combos with. Gronk and Tom Brady.
If you look at that same team, though, I know Vic was there, but Tony Gonzalez was just good. Like, he had some not good quarterbacks as well. And sometimes
Algie Crumpler, shout out to Algie Crumpler.
Algie Crumpler was one of Vic's. Yeah, he was probably his favorite target. I think there's a certain point where, like, the guy isn't in the position where they have the good connection because they don't have a good quarterback. And if they're good enough, if they're that talented of a tight end, they can still make that much of an impact. The Andrews thing I want to push back on, Josh. Like, to me, he's not Kelsey and Kittle from a outside of fantasy standpoint. He hasn't done it enough. He really has only had one incredible year.
But it was an incredible year. I think that, first of all, I think Kittle, for me, being a Pats fan and looking at Gronk, which you just mentioned, I look at blocking as well. And the incredible, he almost went for 1,400 yards and over 100 receptions. Can he do it again? It's a big question. But I have more faith in him repeating what he did last year from a yard standpoint than Pitts. I would love to see Pitts get more touchdowns. If he does get more touchdowns, I'm going to feel confident. But there's a chance that he doesn't. There's a chance that he gets like 4 or 5 touchdowns. I thought that was a really bad pick by the Falcons. Nothing against Pitts. Just going back to the draft, I will always harp on that draft, dude. That draft is going to be one major what were we thinking for a lot of teams.
Yeah,
for a lot of teams, bro. They passed him like so many guys. They passed him.
The tight end position is not a position you draft early if you're not ready to compete right away. That's like the same thing as a quarterback, and even more so. Tight end's a luxury. Like, it's like having a closer in baseball, right? Like, if you're a crappy team that has an elite closer, you're probably going to trade him by the deadline because he's useless on your roster if you're not going to make the playoffs. It's the same thing with the tight end.
Yeah,
my boy's hot this show. My boy's hot this show.
He's not really a tight end, though. He's not.
He's not. He's a wide receiver tight end combo, but
he's not. And we've been saying that since he was in college. The first thing I saw when I watched that guy play one snap at Florida was like, that guy's not a tight end. He doesn't move like a tight end.
The way that NFL contracts work, I think he would hope that he wasn't a tight end because he'd make more money as a wide receiver. That's the case. They should just make him a wide receiver so he can get paid more. He should declare himself as a wide receiver,
I mean, he's a Pro Bowler last year. Went for 15 yards of reception.
He's a beast.
He's a beast. He's not a tight. He's a stud. He's not a tight end though. And if he's not a tight end, you took him over Jamar Chase and Jalen Waddle, who are better than him, more valuable than him, in my opinion, as weapons. I think you'd find anyone hard pressed to say so. You take him over You take him over Micah Parsons, and to me there is no hindsight.
That should be your pick. If you're the Falcons, that should be your pick.
There's no hindsight 2020 there. If you guys, I always say the Jets, and I always say the Jaguars should have taken Micah Parsons, but I guess that's hindsight 2020, especially from a Jaguar standpoint because it's Trevor Lawrence, and from the Jets because they were enamored with Zach Wilson, who Joe Flacco's week 1 starting quarterback, and here we are in year 2. But the Falcons should have taken Micah Parsons or Patrick Surtain. Bad pick. But I love Kyle Pitts in short and long. Sorry. NFC West, the West. This is why I picked the Rams to go back to the Super Bowl and lose to the Ravens, but they could easily win that game, obviously. First of all 3 levels, they may have the best player at each level. They may have the best linebacker in Bobby Wagner. They do have the best defensive lineman in Aaron Donald, and they have the best cornerback in Jalen Ramsey until proven otherwise. The offense is good. People are getting a little up in arms about the Stafford elbow. They're going to bring Odell back. Obviously, I think Allen Robinson is a major upgrade.
Odell did hint that he'll play for the winner of this game on Thursday night.
That'd be the swaggiest thing of all time, and Odell is the swaggiest player, so I wouldn't be surprised. I think the Rams, of all the teams in the NFC, I feel the most confident in them winning their division of all the division favorites. I really think that the Niners are going to be super competitive, but I think that they didn't come close to winning the division last year. They snuck into the playoffs. I think they have a similar situation where they get in potentially as a wild card team, but I don't think they touch them. I think you talk about a make or break year for Aaron Rodgers. This is a major make or break year for me, Kyler Murray, and Cliff Kingsbury.
If the Cardinals don't make the playoffs this year, does he get fired?
Should. Yeah, gone.
He's getting fired. They're not making the playoffs.
Okay, there you go. Because you know why? And the fact that they're not making the playoffs, and you're saying it that vehemently, I think I used that word right. That roster should make the playoffs. That is a playoff roster.
I think he's got a longer leash than you guys think, though.
Why? Because he's handsome. If he was ugly, he'd be fired yesterday.
And if it was any other team, if it was any other city, then I'd be with you. But I think he just fits that Scottsdale bachelor mentality that the Cardinals want as the face of their franchise in the coaching perspective. I think he gets an extra year, even if they don't make the playoffs. And you could also point to the fact that Kyler was immature the first few years of his career. And look, that's no knock on Kingsbury. That's the knock on the entire organization for missing that, right? I mean, we had it in his contract that he had to dedicate 4 hours a day to study time. And they retracted that. And it's the national media doesn't need to hear that. Kyler, you're good. He just got this brand new contract. So, and look, you're up without DeAndre Hopkins for 6 games. Because he got suspended. So there's definitely some issues there that are out of Cliff's control, but you're in the same division as the Super Bowl champ. It should be their division to take as well. Again,
and another team that made the NFC Championship.
Yep.
They play the Seahawks. And the Seahawks. Do you think the Seahawks are going to be the worst team in the league? Because I don't.
No. I think it's the Jags again.
If the Jags are the worst team in the league, Trevor Lawrence is gone. This is his lad. That will be if they're a bottom 3 team in the league, he's gone.
Mm-hmm. And then gets his career resurrected somewhere else.
I just think that I don't think the Jags are going to be the worst team because the rest of that division is not good, and I think because of that they'll be able to win. They'll be able to win some games. They'll be a dog coming into the game, but I saw enough from him last year. We don't really need to talk about Trevor Lawrence that much. We've already talked about this division, but I saw enough from him last year where I still believe in the talent. And
Trevor?
Yeah.
He's a quarterback. He's going to be, of course.
He had some great moments.
It's Trevor Lawrence.
Nick, I really like your point about Cliff. It's a mistake if they keep him one more year, if they don't make the playoffs. It's a huge mistake. Whether he fits the mold of that area or not, like winning puts people in seats, not whatever your coach looks like.
You're also stunting the growth of your young quarterback. He's still a younger quarterback. You have so much time with Kyler, and the way he plays is a bit dangerous. We've already seen him get hurt. Like
I'll say like the picks that we really liked, these kind of incredibly versatile defensive players that they've had, they have to step up this year. They have to like we love their picks. We've loved those picks
always, and
but they haven't really shown it on the field yet. They haven't popped off like they've needed to. I just don't see them. I don't see them making the playoffs because I think the Rams are going to win the division. I think the 49ers are going to get a wild card spot. You guys know I'm always high on the 49ers, but their roster and their coaching staff is good.
They have like guys at each position that are the best. I mean, there's like,
and I would say as well that if Trey Lance doesn't start off well, they've got a guy right behind him that can come in and manage the game perfectly.
Which, if Murray goes down, McCoy's already out. FYI, I think we know that as Horn fan, but I don't know if everybody knows that. I mean, the Niners have great tackles.
Fred Warner might be the best linebacker in football. You said, I mean, it's Micah Parsons, and it's not Wagner anymore. I think he's been overtaken, but he's right there. All three of those guys are right there, right? Like
I just consider Parsons a defensive player
because he can line up on the edge too.
Or if he really wanted to, he could probably line up on the inside and be still as dominant. He could probably line up at the cornerback and be epic. I think for me, I'm curious to see how the corners play for the Niners, but their front seven's amazing. I think Kinlaw is going to step up this year. And then we could be sitting here at the end of the year and the Niners could have a top 5 receiving duo. And I wouldn't be surprised.
I was about to ask, do you guys think that Ayuk's a lock to be 1,000-yard receiver this year?
No.
Lock.
No.
Lock.
Would you be surprised if he was?
No. But a lock is crazy. A lock is nuts. Drew Lock is nuts. I think, speaking of Drew Lock, I think the Seahawks are putting themselves in a better position than a lot of people think. Ditto with the Falcons. I think if you're going to have their pick of the litter at quarterback next year in the draft in a very strong QB draft class. And I think that's why certain teams, all of the Lions, all of the Falcons waiting to take Desmond Ridder, and hey, they'll play him at some point this season. If he works out, great. If he doesn't, whatever. And then all of the Titans, same thing with Malik Willis. But I think they're in a different boat. The draft class for the QBs is really strong next year, and I don't think the Seahawks roster is that bad.
Yeah, I don't think it's that bad. In the water Falcons, as you like to call the Seahawks. Like,
thank you.
Why do they need to win? They don't need to win games. No one will care if they lose games. We all expect it. Like, don't go out there and win 6 or 7 games. Don't do it.
I don't think they can because they don't have the quarterback play, but I think they have okay, on the offensive line is decent. The receivers are good. They'll probably trade Ty Lockett realistically, but I thought the fan addition in the Russ deal was sneaky. I think their running back duo is good. They have some pieces on the defensive side of the football. I think the Jamal Adams trade kind of ruined that franchise from a competitive standpoint. But outside of that, I think this is a team that could really be good quicker than we think. I just want to say that.
Wait, who is the team? Nick, you said the Jags. You think they're going to be the worst team in the NFL?
Yeah, I think gut check right now. That's my worst team.
Josh,
either them or the Falcons.
The worst team in the league, I think, is going to be the Atlanta Falcons, followed by the Chicago Bears. Just because I think the Jaguars can slip a game off the Texans, and I still think they could slip. I think they could slip a game off the Titans. I think the Falcons get swept in their division, and I think the Bears do as well. I think the Bears get swept in that division. I think they go 0-6 in the North.
I'm between the Bears and I think the Texans still. I like them. I like them.
No, we can't, dude. We like Davis Mills too much on our show. Really? Yeah. You think the Texans are going to stink that hard? Ugh, they're so bad, dude.
They're not that bad. I don't think they're that bad.
They kind of. I don't think. No, I think their defense is kind of trash. But I would love to. I would love it if they were drafting like second or third. But like Davis Mills was still kind of the guy, and they can get like a Will Anderson in the mix. Like that team.
Yeah.
That team always has like a sick like edge, don't they? It feels like between like J.J. Watt. I mean, Mary Williams wasn't that sick, but he was pretty good. He was pretty good.
I mean, we're getting a real toilet bowl game on September 25th when the Texans and the Bears play each other. And then 2 weeks later we get the Texans and the Jags. But they play the West. They play the AFC West. So they get the Broncos, they get the Raiders, they get the Eagles and the NFC East. So like I just they have some tough games. They have some tough games this year, the Texans do. They have a tough schedule. I think it's like top 7 toughest.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I hate to see that for Davis Mills. Did the Queen just die?
Yeah, she did.
Really?
Damn. Wow. That's
All right, to a legend.
Damn, you beat me to it. That's terrible, though. I mean,
She was like almost 100 years old, but
yeah. I mean, you don't want to see someone die, but that's still a good life for sure for the Queen.
She lived a long life. Yeah, she got to see Wimbledon this year.
And she was also the Queen. And we're also the charity stripes. So fans out there, drag both feet inbound, swing on a full count, worth that puck at that putt. Hit your PKs because they're free and your free throws. Why, guys? Because they're free. We out you. We love you.